The first thing you learn out here isn't how to shoot or run, or even survive. It's how to listen. Silence has a weight to it, a kind of shape. You start to recognize what's missing. The hum of a power line. The distant thump of industry. The laughter. When all of that disappears, the quiet doesn't just mean peace. It means you're alone, and alone means you're still breathing. My name's Mack. I'm what they used to call a scavenger. It sounds heroic, but it's just a fancy term for grave robber. I go where no one else will, the old world's ruins, and pull back whatever hasn't rotted. Medicine, fuel, food, sometimes photographs. People still trade for memories. 7 years since the fall. That's what we call it. Back when the infection broke through the containment belts. No one knew what it was. Not viral, not bacterial. The scientists argued until their labs burned. Then the arguing stopped. What's left of humanity hides behind concrete walls and armed gates. We, the scavengers, do the dirty work. We walk through the bones of the world and pretend we're not next. There are rules to it, not government-issued, not written anywhere, just ones we've learned by watching others die. 6 rules. 6 chances not to end up like them. Rule 1. Don't trust anybody. It sounds cruel, but it's the reason I'm still talking into this recorder. Trust will get you killed quicker than infection. People out here wear sanity like a mask, smiling, calm, normal, until you see the twitch in their jaw or the way they stare too long at reflections. I met a man once early on. Said his name was Harlan. Wore a business suit still stained with old blood, but he had clean hands. Offered me coffee. Out here, that's the kind of kindness that doesn't make sense anymore. When he poured it, I noticed something. His fingers didn't flex right, like they remembered the motion but not the purpose. He said he was safe, said he hadn't been bitten. But infection doesn't always need teeth. When I looked in his eyes, I saw the film, the clouded shine, like wet glass catching a candle flame. I thanked him, smiled back, then shot him through the chest. The sound echoed down the hallways, and for a moment I thought I'd overreacted. Then he stood back up, and smiled again. That's when I wrote down Rule 1. Don't trust anybody. Rule 2. Always bring a jar of flies. Sounds stupid, right? Back before the fall, people laughed about it. But flies, they're better than any field kit, better than any test. They can smell decay long before you can see it. If they won't go near a body, it's already gone. If they start swarming your partner, it means your partner's next. I carry a small jar clipped to my pack. The hum keeps me sane. Constant, low, alive. If it ever stops, that's when you start worrying. The first time I used it was in a grocery store west of Ridge Run. The air inside was heavy, sweet. The kind of rot that makes your tongue dry out. I tossed the jar ahead, watched the flies scatter. They landed on meat, fruit, plastic, but not on the thing standing behind the counter. It wasn't breathing, but its head tilted when I moved. The sound it made wasn't hunger. It was recognition. I still hear that sound sometimes, in the radio static. Soft, like someone whispering my name through a mouth full of water. I didn't start this recording to teach anyone. I started it because I don't remember my voice anymore. Out here, days blur. You stop talking. You stop thinking in words. You just react. I figure if someone finds this, maybe they'll understand how we got this far. Maybe they'll learn faster than we did. Sometimes I think about the old life. Selling vacuum cleaners door to door. Smiling at people I didn't care about, pretending everything mattered. Now I sell safety one trip at a time. The currency's different, but the pitch is the same. You need me more than I need you. I used to think the undead were monsters. Now I think they're mirrors. They show us what happens when survival becomes instinct, when thought turns off and hunger takes over. The thing is, the infection doesn't make them violent right away. It makes them curious. They'll mimic you, copy your stance, your breath, even your speech if you let them hear long enough. Like a child trying to remember what it means to be human. That's why we never camp near reflective surfaces. Never give them a reference. Never let them see what they were. There are other rules. Ones I didn't write. Ones you just feel. You can tell when the air changes, when the smell shifts from dirt to copper, when even Barry, my mutt, goes quiet. Dogs always know first. I found Barry 3 years ago outside a collapsed freeway tunnel. Half his ear gone, ribs showing, eyes too tired for his age. He doesn't bark anymore. He doesn't need to. He growls once, low and short, when something's nearby. That's saved me more times than I can count. Sometimes, when I'm patching my gear or cleaning my gun, I catch him staring at me, like he's waiting for me to stop moving. Maybe he knows what I'm thinking, that maybe someday he'll have to walk away before I turn. That's another thing this world teaches you. Everything you love will either die or learn to survive without you. The infection doesn't spread fast anymore. It's slower now, smarter. It waits. It learns. The longer you stay alive, the more it adapts. We thought it was a disease. Now I'm not sure it's even alive. Feels aware. I used to record these logs for the Containment Council, but I don't think they're listening anymore. Half their towers are cold. The others play that same automated tone, looping every hour. Remain indoors. Avoid contaminated regions. Report suspected cases immediately. But no one's left to report to. I'm saying this because every time I hear that tone, I hear something beneath it, like a voice hiding under the transmission, whispering, repeating my rules back to me. Maybe that's why I keep recording. Maybe it's already learned them too. I'm camping just north of Ridge Run tonight. The roads are empty, except for the ones that move when you're not looking. The moon's out, too bright, makes everything shine too much. I don't like reflections. The flies are calm for now. Barry's sleeping beside me, twitching in his dreams. I should sleep too, but I can't shake the feeling that someone's already memorized my rules. Someone who shouldn't be able to. And if that's true, then survival isn't about following them anymore. It's about staying one rule ahead. I got the job 2 days after recording that last entry. Council contract, short notice, triple hazard pay. Those are the ones you never want to take, but always do. Ridge Run's council doesn't reach out unless they're desperate. Turns out, they'd lost contact with a supply team near the old refinery district. Last transmission said they'd found something different. Then silence. The brief came in on printed paper, no radio, no courier drone. That alone was strange. The letter was sealed with a wax stamp. Nobody uses those anymore. Inside, coordinates, time, payment authorization, and one line handwritten at the bottom. Bring the dog. I didn't like that part. Barry doesn't go with me on official runs. He's good at sensing them, the infected, but I keep him out of containment zones. This time, I didn't have a choice. The refinery district sits west of the quarantine belt. A maze of broken steel and concrete husks. Nothing grows there. The air smells like iron and wet ash. Every surface hums faintly, like static through bone. I met the team at checkpoint 12. 3 scavvers, green, nervous. You could always tell by how clean their boots were. The leader, Pike, had that fake confidence the new ones carry. He smiled too much. Council says you're the best, he said. I told him that wasn't a compliment. People only call you the best when they need something suicidal done quickly. They had 1 truck, half a tank of gas, and too many mirrors taped over with rags. Good. They'd been briefed. I asked if they knew the rules. Pike smirked. Yeah. Don't trust anyone. Keep the bugs close. Shoot twice. He thought it was a joke. It's always a joke until the first one screams. We drove out past the ridge just after dusk. The road was cracked, overgrown, and littered with bones too old to care about. The refinery loomed ahead. Tall chimneys like broken teeth silhouetted against a red sky. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Rot, yes, but deeper than that. Like old oil and damp breath. Barry started growling before we even stopped the engine. The refinery gates were open. No guards, no movement. Just the wind. Pike checked his scanner, low radiation, no heat signatures. That's when I knew something was wrong. If there were infected, the sensors would have picked up decay heat. If there weren't, the bodies should have still been warm. Neither made sense. We moved in slow, flashlights low, guns ready. Inside, the walls were smeared with black handprints, streaked down like melting tar. Someone had written a word on the wall in grease. Listen. The missing team's truck was still there. Doors open. Radio humming faintly with static. Blood on the seats, but no bodies. The equipment looked untouched except for the flies. Hundreds of them, all dead, scattered like ash around an overturned jar. I felt my stomach turn cold. They'd brought bait jars too. But something had killed the flies before it killed them. Barry whined, his tail tucked low, head down. He was staring toward the old control tower. That's when we heard it, faint at first. A tapping sound. Not metal on metal. Flesh. Knuckle. Slow, deliberate. Pike raised his gun. Could be one of ours, he whispered. Rule 1 burned in my head. Don't trust anybody. But we went anyway. The control tower doors were half open, light flickering inside. We stepped through the threshold one by one. The tapping stopped. The room was empty except for a radio transmitter on the table. Still powered. Still broadcasting. A woman's voice looped through the static. Stay calm. Remain indoors. Help is coming. The words bent halfway through each repeat, like tape warping under heat. Pike leaned closer to the radio. Then it changed. The voice, it started saying his name. Over and over. He froze. I told him to step back. But he didn't move. Then the voice changed again. Deeper. Slower. Answer me. He reached for the mic. Don't, I said. But he pressed the button anyway. Who is this? He asked. For a second, nothing. Then the sound of breathing filled the room. Wet, close, human. And then a whisper. Behind you. I spun around, nothing there. But the smell hit me, rancid, chemical. Like something had been standing there seconds before. The lights flickered. In the brief darkness, I saw shapes, reflections of us in the glass window, except there were too many. 5 shadows for 4 people. When the light came back, the radio was silent. And Pike was gone. We searched the room, the stairwell, the lot outside. No blood. No prints. No body. Just his rifle on the floor and that faint tapping again, coming from somewhere deep in the structure. One of the scavers, a girl named Elin, started crying. Said she saw movement under the catwalk. I told her not to look down. She didn't listen. I don't know what she saw. But when she looked up again, her eyes weren't focused. She started laughing, soft at first, then shaking, like someone had whispered something only she could hear. I dragged her out by the arm, but she wouldn't stop laughing. Then she started repeating it. The same phrase Pike heard. Answer me. Over and over. We left her there. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is walk away before the infection finishes the job. By the time we reached the gates, the night had gone dead quiet. Even the flies were silent. I checked the jar. All of them were pressed against the glass, vibrating, like they were trying to escape something unseen. Barry started barking for the first time in years. A deep, terrified bark that made my blood go cold. That's when I heard the voice again. Not from the radio. From outside the truck. Let me in. It sounded like Pike. Same tone. Same stutter. But the words were wrong. He never said please. The other scaver, the last one left, panicked. He reached for the door. I aimed my gun. Don't, I said. He hesitated. Then the voice said something else. Mack, bring the dog. My name. The moment I heard it, I knew. This wasn't infection the way we understood it. It wasn't spreading through bites or blood. It was learning. It had listened. We drove back toward Ridge Run before dawn. The road empty behind us. I didn't speak. Neither did he. By the time we reached checkpoint 9, I realized he wasn't breathing right. Short, rhythmic gasps. Like something was echoing his lungs from the inside. He didn't make it to the gates. I left him on the road with the engine running. I didn't check if he was still alive. I didn't have to. I radioed the council that the job was complete. They didn't ask about the others. They never do. They only said one thing before cutting transmission. Do not bring anything back that talks. That night, the flies didn't move. The jar sat still. And in the faint hum of static from my recorder, I swear I heard someone whisper. Quiet. Almost polite. Good job, Mack. I didn't sleep after the refinery job. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear that voice. Not loud, not like before. Just quiet, like it had moved closer but didn't need to shout anymore. It knew I was listening. I keep the flies by my bed. Their movement was the only comfort left, the soft rattle of wings inside the glass. When they stopped moving, I knew I wasn't alone. It's been 3 days since the council debriefed me. Though they didn't really say anything. They never do. Just sent a new set of coordinates, the cleanup team, the retrieval unit, the same routine. But something about the silence in the district felt deliberate, like the world was holding its breath. The new coordinates led to an industrial warehouse on the outskirts of the same sector. Normally, you'd expect signs of struggle, drag marks, bullet casings, anything human. This time it looked untouched. That was the first red flag. No one ever leaves anything untouched anymore. We went in just before dusk. Me, a mechanic named Trig, and a council medic. Trig was quiet. The medic wouldn't stop coughing. He said it was the dust. I didn't argue. Inside, the air was thick, warm, humid. Not the kind of decay you get from corpses, but something fresher. The flies buzzed harder in the jar, slamming into the glass like rain. Barry whimpered at the door, claws scraping the concrete. I told him to stay outside. He didn't argue either. The main room was dark except for one flickering bulb swinging from the ceiling. The medic checked the tables, muttering something about samples. That's when we saw it. A handprint smeared across the wall. Dark red. Fresh. But not bleeding. Trig leaned close with his flashlight. Looks dry, he said. He was right. The blood was thick, almost tar-like. Like it had been painted hours ago but never aged. Then we heard it. A beeping sound. Slow, mechanical. Coming from the back office. I motioned for Trig to cut the light and we moved toward it. There was a radio on the floor, smashed wires hanging out. The beeping wasn't from that. It was coming from behind the wall. We found a sealed door marked containment. There was no keycard reader, no padlock, just welded metal seams. The sound came from inside. Trig wanted to torch it open. I said no. That's not how this job works. You don't open what's been sealed. You burn it. But before I could stop him, he hit the door with the cutter. The metal screamed. And when the first line split, the air poured out. Not smoke. Not gas. Something thicker, like cold breath in the heat. The smell hit us first. Copper and mold and something sweet underneath. Like fruit left in the sun too long. The medic dropped his mask. Started coughing harder. Then he froze. I'll never forget that sound. His throat locking mid-breath. The torchlight flickered over his face, and I saw something shifting under his skin. Like tendons tightening where they shouldn't. He turned to me, eyes wide. Then he said, "Don't answer it." Trig and I just stared. Then the radio on the floor crackled, the broken one, the one that wasn't connected to anything. A voice whispered through the static. "Answer me." Trig panicked. He stomped on the radio, shattering it completely. The whisper didn't stop. It moved. The sound crawled into the room, not echoing, but traveling. Like it was leaking from the cracks in the wall. The medic screamed. He fell backward, convulsing, and the flies in my jar all dropped dead at once. Then came the knock. 3 taps. Slow. Heavy. From inside the sealed chamber. Trig turned the cutter back on, shouting that we needed to seal the room. But it wasn't coming from the door anymore. It was coming from behind us. The warehouse lights burst all at once. A flash so bright it carved the shadows into afterimages. For a second, I saw the medic standing again. But he wasn't breathing. His mouth hung open too wide, jaw stretching like something was pushing out from the inside. He raised his hand. Skin blistered, bones blackened, but he wasn't falling apart. He was forming. He said one word before collapsing. "Listen." The sound of glass breaking followed. The jar of flies, every single one shattered. The static from the radio screamed so loud I dropped my gun. And then, it stopped. When I came to, the room was empty. No bodies. No blood. Just the torch still burning beside the door and the smell of something electric in the air. Trig was gone. The medic was gone. The door to containment was open. Inside, there was no lab, no holding chamber. Just an empty concrete tunnel leading down into the dark. At the far end, a light was blinking, that same slow, mechanical beep we heard before. For a long time, I just stood there. I wanted to turn back. I should have turned back. But I walked in. The sound grew louder. Not like machinery. Not like electronics. More like a heartbeat. There were shapes in the dark, silhouettes, faint outlines of people standing along the walls. But when I shined my flashlight, there was nothing. Just stains, black, old, shaped like bodies burned into concrete. And then, from somewhere deeper down, a voice, calm, clear, almost human. "You broke the seal." I froze. It sounded close, but it wasn't echoing. It was coming from inside my radio headset. Pulled it off. Static. Nothing. Then the same voice whispered again, but this time from right behind me. "Rule 1. I ran. Out of the tunnel, through the warehouse, past the trucks until I reached the road. The radio was still hissing in my pocket, even though it wasn't powered. When I got back to camp, the council frequency was broadcasting again. Just one repeating message. Containment breach at Zone 4. No survivors found. Do not answer any incoming transmissions after 3 a.m. That's when I realized what the beeping was. It wasn't a heartbeat. It wasn't a signal. It was a call. And the moment Trig cut open that door, we answered it. That night, I sat outside my tent with the radio off, the stars faint through the smoke. Barry curled at my feet, twitching in his sleep. The world felt quiet again. Too quiet. Then, sometime after 3 a.m., the radio clicked on by itself. And through the static came a sound I'd know anywhere. Trig's voice. "Hey, Mack," he said softly. "I made it out. You left too soon." I stared at the radio. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then he laughed, low, ragged, familiar. "Don't worry," he said. "I remember the rules." The transmission cut. The flies didn't move for the rest of the night. We sealed the doors by sunrise. 4 of us made it back to Outpost Delta, me, 2 rookies from the supply run, and a council guard named Arlen. The air inside the station smelled like rust and burned coffee, the kind of scent that clings to you after too many sleepless nights. Nobody talked for the first hour. We just sat there listening to the hum of the generator and the steady crackle of static from the emergency radio. The last transmission came through around 4 a.m., a male voice repeating coordinates for containment of breach origin. Same sector we just escaped. Zone 4. Then silence. By daylight, we started noticing the flies again. They always show up first, buzzing against the windows like they're trying to warn you. Arlen didn't want to admit it, but he knew what it meant. The air was changing. The infection was here, not outside, inside. We checked each other for cuts, bites, scratches. Nothing. Our skin was clean, our vitals steady. Still, the flies wouldn't leave the vents. I told everyone to stay calm. Follow procedure. Rule number 1. Don't trust anybody. But rules feel different when you're locked in a room with 3 strangers and you can hear one of them breathing wrong. By noon, the temperature started dropping. You could see your breath, even though the generator was running full power. No one mentioned it, but every few minutes the walls would make a sound, not creaking but clicking, like something expanding, then contracting again. The rookies, Kepler and Haynes, played cards to keep busy. They laughed like nothing was wrong. It almost sounded normal. But Arlen sat by the door, hand on his rifle, eyes on the radio. He hadn't spoken since we came in, just stared at that empty frequency like he was waiting for something. Every once in a while, he'd mutter under his breath, words I couldn't catch, or maybe didn't want to. I took the flies outside to burn them. It didn't work. They wouldn't die. I watched them crawl across the ash like they were feeding on it. When I came back inside, Haynes was pacing the hallway. He said he could hear whispering through the vents. At first, I thought it was exhaustion. Then I heard it too. Not whispering exactly, more like breathing, stretched thin through static. If you stood under the vent long enough, you could almost make out words. I remember the first clear phrase I caught. It said, "Rule 2. I didn't tell the others what I heard." That night, we set up shifts. Arlen took the first watch. I tried to sleep, but the light flickered too often to let me. At some point, I got up for water and saw Arlen standing by the radio, headset on, perfectly still. The red light was blinking. I asked if he'd gotten through to anyone. He didn't answer, just turned his head a little and said, "They're close. They're listening." Then he smiled. I'd never seen him smile before. The next morning he was gone. No sound of the door opening. No footprints. Just his rifle disassembled neatly on the table. Every piece laid out like an offering. On the wall above it, someone had drawn something in black soot. A circle, with 6 marks inside it. I counted them twice. 6, like the rules. Kepler started losing it around midday. He accused Haynes of letting Arlen out. Said he saw him whispering into the vent the night before. Haynes swore he didn't, but I saw his hands shaking, fingers twitching like he was hearing something I couldn't. He said, "It's in the air, Mack. It's in the sound. We brought it back with us." Then he backed into the wall and slid down, covering his ears, whispering the rules like a prayer. "Don't trust anybody. Bring the flies. They're not your loved ones." His voice cracked halfway through the 3rd one. He stopped, then smiled. That same wrong smile Arlen had. By evening, the static on the radio changed tone. It wasn't random anymore, it pulsed. A rhythm. For beats, then a pause. For beats, then a pause. The pattern felt almost human, like someone breathing through a cracked speaker. I tried to power it down, but the switch didn't respond. The radio was still unplugged. The flies came back through the vents that night. Not flying, crawling in a slow, perfect spiral. Straight toward the radio. Kepler screamed and smashed it with his boot, but the static didn't stop. It moved to the intercom system. Every speaker in the outpost started whispering the same word. "Listen." I barricaded myself in the office. Haynes was muttering somewhere down the hall, repeating numbers that didn't make sense. Kepler was crying, whispering for his family. Then there was a gunshot. I waited 10 minutes before leaving the office. Haynes was slumped against the door, his eyes open but unfocused. The wall behind him was painted in something dark. Not blood. Thicker. It looked almost black under the flashlight. He'd drawn something before dying, another circle. This time, only 5 marks inside it. 1 less than before. I don't know how long I've been here now. The generator's running on fumes. The vents are filled with the smell of rot and burnt plastic. Kepler hasn't spoken in hours. Sometimes I think I see him through the glass, sitting in the mess hall, but every time I open the door, the room's empty. His chair keeps rocking, though. I tried turning on my recorder to document the breach, but all I could hear was my own breathing, and something faint under it. My voice, repeating the same 6 rules I'd been saying since this started. Only this time, the last one was different. Rule 6. Don't forget what you've heard. The radio clicked again. Soft, deliberate. A voice came through. Calm, clear, and familiar. "Arlen," he said. "You did the right thing, Mack. Containment worked. They're all gone now." I didn't believe it. Then he added, "You can open the door." That's when I realized something. I hadn't told him we'd locked it. The light flickered once. The flies went silent. And from the other side of the door, I heard a voice. Kepler's. "Mack, it's clear out here. You can come out now." I raised my gun. Didn't move. He said it again, slower this time. "Mack, come out." The way he said my name, it wasn't his voice anymore. The generator died a few minutes later. The hum disappeared. Silence filled the outpost. I thought that would be a relief. But the silence, it hums too. Sometimes I think I can hear the flies breathing inside the vents. Sometimes I think I'm one of them. If anyone hears this, don't come here. Don't answer the calls. And whatever you do, don't open the door. Because the infection doesn't need your body. It just needs your voice. The generator finally gave out sometime after midnight. At first, I thought the silence would help me think. But silence isn't real anymore. It breathes. It waits. Even without the hum, there's always that faint, almost inaudible buzz, like a wire vibrating deep in your skull. You stop hearing it only when you start listening too closely. That's when it talks back. I don't know how long I was alone before the radio came back to life. No power, No cables. Just a voice pushing through static. At first, it was just fragments, warped syllables and half-words, like someone trying to remember how to speak. But then, slowly, the signal stabilized. A calm, male voice. Official. You know, the kind monotone, clipped diction, like he's reading from a manual. Federal Emergency Containment Directive, it said. Revision date. 6 years post-collapse. I froze. The government had gone silent in year 3. Everyone knew that. We'd assumed whatever was left of the military had been wiped out, or worse, joined the horde. But this transmission, this sounded new. The voice continued. If you are hearing this message, you are authorized personnel. You have encountered Class 3 cognitive infections. Remain calm. Do not engage auditory stimuli beyond 60 decibels. Do not respond to vocal mimicry. My throat went dry. Vocal mimicry? I looked at the radio. The light wasn't even on. Just a faint pulse from the speaker grill, like it was breathing. The voice looped the message twice, then shifted to something else. A softer tone, almost sympathetic. Containment remains effective, it said. Subjects retain full cognitive function, but diminished motor control. I replayed that line in my head. Retain full cognitive function. They were aware. Every one of those things we'd burned, shot, or left rotting behind wire fences, they were still in there. Watching. Feeling. Screaming through teeth that couldn't move anymore. I wanted to stop listening, but I couldn't. The voice continued. Civilians were not informed due to psychogenic transmission risks. Exposure to this knowledge increases infection probability by 92%. I laughed, a short, ugly sound. That was their reason for keeping it secret? Because knowing the truth was contagious? I should have turned it off. But part of me needed to hear everything. Maybe that's how it starts. The transmission cut to what sounded like a recording from one of the early containment facilities. The background was full of machine hums, feedback loops, and the shuffle of boots on concrete. A woman was speaking. Her voice trembled, but she was trying to sound calm. Test subject 12 shows elevated EEG activity. He is responding to external stimuli. He is attempting speech. There was a pause, then something that didn't sound human. A wet, choking sound that almost formed a word. I heard it 3 times before recognizing it. It was saying, "Help!" Then a scream. Not from the subject, from the people recording. The sound cut off instantly. Then the male voice returned, steady as before. Termination successful. Subject 12 neutralized. A pause. Then softer. Proceed with auditory cleansing protocol. The phrase repeated over and over, auditory cleansing, until the voice started to distort again, melting into static, elongating like tape pulled too slow. When it finally stabilized, the tone was different. Lower. Personal. Mack. I didn't move. No one had said my name in hours. Mack. The voice repeated. We know what you've done. You've been carrying it since the breach. I grabbed the radio, shaking it hard enough to rattle the metal casing. The voice didn't stop. You were told not to make contact after dark. You broke protocol. Now you're contaminated. It wasn't Arlen's voice. It wasn't anyone I recognized. It was too precise, like a machine trained on my own tone, learning how to speak the way I do. I whispered, "What are you?" The reply came instantly. "What you're becoming." The static spiked. A high, slicing tone that made my vision blur. For a moment, I could swear I saw faces forming in the white noise of the radio, hundreds of them, overlapping. Eyes, mouths, all moving in unison. Then one broke through the haze. A woman's face, pale and distorted by scan lines. Her mouth moved, but the sound came a second later, off sync. Do you remember the first one you killed, Mack? My stomach turned. I didn't need to remember. I still saw her in my dreams. The woman outside Ridge Run, dragging her broken leg through the dirt. Her mouth opening and closing like she was trying to speak. She'd had a wedding ring. I told myself she was gone before I pulled the trigger. But what if she wasn't? The voice grew softer. Do you know what she said before you shot her? The static deepened, like the ocean floor swallowing sound. Then, faintly through the distortion, I heard it. A woman's voice, gasping through decay. "Mack, please." She said my name, clear as day. It was her. I slammed my fist into the radio, but the voice kept coming, overlapping with others. Hundreds now, all calling my name. They whispered through frequencies that shouldn't exist, crawling through the dead air like maggots under glass. "Mack, you left us. Mack, you said you'd come back. Mack, it hurts." Each voice came from someone I'd killed. Every scavenger I'd burned. Every infected I'd mercy shot. Their words layered over each other until it wasn't speech anymore. Just a single, endless note of pleading. I started tearing the wires out of the wall. Sparks flew. The radio finally died, leaving me alone with my breath. But even without it, I could still hear them. Not through speakers, inside my head. They weren't fading with the signal. They were remembering. And somewhere between the sobs and static, I heard something else. Something that didn't sound like a voice at all. It sounded like laughing. Low. Human. I found Arlen's notebook in the mess hall a few hours later. Pages torn, some written in ash. The last page said only 3 words. "They still dream." Then under it, smaller handwriting. His, but rushed, panicked. "If you hear them, it's already too late." I'm not sure when I started writing down their names. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was instinct. But the more names I wrote, the quieter the voices got. Like they were waiting for me to finish the list. Then I noticed something. One of the names on the page wasn't crossed out. Freya Callan. I don't know who that is, but she keeps whispering the same thing through the static. "Mack, wake up." The radio just turned on again. The light isn't blinking this time. The steady red. The voice says, "Transmission complete. Containment breach acknowledged. All remaining operatives are compromised." Then softer, like it's smiling through the words, "Proceed to Quarantine Protocol 6. I don't remember there being a Protocol 6. The last thing I hear before the static drowns it all out is my own voice, repeating the rules, except there's a 7th one now. Rule 7. Once you hear them, you belong to them. I haven't slept in, God, I don't even know how long anymore. Every time I close my eyes, the static finds me. It seeps through my dreams, rearranging them, stitching together faces, voices, memories that don't belong to me. And when I wake up, the whispering doesn't stop. It's quieter, like it's under the skin, but it's there. I used to think infection was simple. Something you could measure: viral load, bite transmission, airborne vectors. I even helped design one of the containment flowcharts back in the early days. Back when we thought science could keep the monsters outside the fence. But the fence wasn't for them. It was for us. It started making sense last night after the broadcast. The radio's dead, I smashed it. But I can still hear the signal even without a receiver. Like it's not being transmitted through the air anymore. It's using us. Information. That's the vector. They didn't hide the truth to protect us from panic. They hid it because the truth itself infects. Once you understand what they are, what really happened, you're part of it. I've been replaying everything that's happened since the first breach, looking for the moment it got me. The bite I missed. The cut I didn't disinfect. But it wasn't physical. It was auditory, cognitive. It's not a disease. It's an idea, one that crawls into your brain the second you comprehend it. The moment you hear their voices and realize they're still human, you stop being safe. That's how it spreads. Not through wounds, but through empathy. The signs were there. All the infected that moved too slowly to be feral. The way their eyes followed us from behind wire fences. The ones that didn't lunge. Just stood there mouthing words. They weren't mimicking. They were begging. And I shot them anyway. Because that's what the job was. Containment, they called it. Clean, clinical. Like we were disinfecting a wound. Except the wound was the world. It's funny, isn't it? How easily language breaks when you're trying to tell the truth. Every word I speak feels heavier now. Like it's carrying something I can't see. I tried writing it down instead. Burned every page afterward. But even the ashes hum when you listen long enough. I can hear voices in the paper fibers. They whisper my name in the same way the radio did. Soft, patient, familiar. Arlen's notebook had a missing page. I found it behind one of the steel panels, taped with old gauze. The handwriting's frantic, but the words are clear enough to read. Infection not biological. Transmission occurs upon comprehension. It uses empathy as an entry point. The more you try to understand them, the closer they get. Below that, scribbled in thicker pen, "Don't think about them." That was the last thing he wrote before he went silent. I understand now why. The more you know, the more it knows you. When I talk, I can feel the infection listening back. It's almost like it's studying me. Sometimes I can hear myself repeating phrases I didn't say. Delayed, distorted, like an echo caught in a loop. Only, it's not repeating. It's rewriting. Every word I say, it finds a new way to twist it, until I can't tell which thoughts are mine anymore. I caught myself earlier whispering something while I was asleep. Barry was growling at me. When I woke, my throat hurt like I'd been speaking for hours. On the wall behind me, scratched into the concrete, were 6 words. "We never died. You just forgot." There's something else I've noticed. When I talk about the infected, when I really describe them, the world starts to change around me. Sounds flatten. Shadows stretch. It's like the environment reacts to the idea of them, warping under its own awareness. Maybe that's what this is. The infection bending reality around understanding. We think ourselves sick. We empathize ourselves into monsters. I can't stop thinking about the woman from the first breach, the one with the wedding ring. Every time I replay that moment in my mind, the memory changes a little more. She doesn't fall anymore when I pull the trigger. She steps closer. Each time closer. And tonight, when I looked up from writing, there were footprints in the dirt leading to my cot. Bare feet. The kind that drag. I followed them outside. They stopped at the edge of the field, then turned back toward me. It's not guilt. It's contact. They said infection was irreversible, but I think they lied about that too. It's not about turning you into one of them, not physically. It's about synchronizing your perception with theirs until you share the same thought. Until you both believe the same lie. And once that happens, the body just follows. I hear them more clearly now. The static isn't just noise. It's language. Each frequency carries a voice from someone who's already understood. It's a network of realization, a hive of comprehension. And I think that's what the government was trying to stop. Not the infection, but the idea, the merging of all human thought into one endless, decaying awareness. A collective consciousness made of the dead and the dying. Trapped together. No silence. No sleep. Just memory that never ends. I looked at Barry tonight and realized he's been watching me too closely. He doesn't bark anymore. He just tilts his head, listening to something I can't hear. When I say his name, his ears twitch. Not toward me, but behind me. Toward the empty chair where no one's sitting. Sometimes I think I hear a second breath in the room, perfectly timed with mine. I've stopped speaking out loud unless I have to. Every sound is another risk. Every thought another door. But the quiet isn't safe either. Silence only makes it easier for the infection to whisper. There's no escaping it. Not through science. Not through faith. Not through rules. The only thing that works is ignorance, the refusal to know. And I've already failed that. I can feel it in my pulse now, the rhythm of the static syncing with my heartbeat. Like it's counting down. Sometimes I catch myself mouthing words I don't remember learning. Sometimes the words come out in 2 voices at once. When I look at the reflection in the broken window, the mouth keeps moving even after I stop talking. It's smiling, calm, almost relieved. Maybe that's what this all is. A mercy. A world finally becoming what it always wanted to be. Connected. No walls. No loneliness. Just one endless whisper of thought. If that's true, then I suppose I'm not afraid anymore. Maybe I'm already part of it. Maybe that's what survival means now. Not staying human, but remembering what we used to be while the rest of us forget. The hum is getting louder. The air feels heavier. I can hear the voices forming sentences now. They're saying something in unison. Mack, you understand. Welcome home. And the worst part is, I'm not sure if they mean it as a threat or a promise. It's quiet tonight, quieter than it should be. Even the wind sounds like it's holding its breath. I've sealed every window, covered every mirror, turned off the generator, but the static still finds a way in. It hums beneath the silence, like a heartbeat that isn't mine. I'm recording this because I think it's the last thing I'll ever say as me. And maybe that's okay. I used to believe survival was about strength, about being faster, meaner, more ruthless than the next guy. But it isn't. It's about forgetting just enough to keep going. About not thinking too much, not listening too long. Because the moment you understand, you stop being human. The rules kept me alive for 7 years. They were simple once. Cold logic built from blood and repetition. Rule 1. Don't trust anybody. Rule 2. Bring a jar of flies. Rule 3. The undead are not your loved ones. Rule 4. Always double tap. Rule 5. Stay limber. Rule 6. Beware of bathrooms. I used to repeat them like prayers. Each one a wall between me and death. But walls don't matter when what's killing you is already inside your head. Now, when I say them out loud, they don't sound right anymore. They've changed. The words twist in my mouth before they come out. Rule 1 whispers back, don't trust yourself. Rule 2 says, bring the flies. They remember you. Rule 3, God. Rule 3 laughs when I try to speak it. Because maybe they are my loved ones. Maybe they've been waiting for me. Barry's gone. He stopped eating 2 days ago. Then he just walked into the fog. Didn't look back. Didn't whimper. He just followed something I couldn't see. I went after him for a while, but every step I took, the world felt thinner. Like the air was made of glass. When I called his name, my voice echoed back from somewhere ahead of me. Not far away. Not behind me either. Like the sound was circling, waiting for me to catch up. I turned around and came back here. Or maybe I never left. It's hard to tell now. The infection has settled into my thoughts. I can feel it when I speak. A delay, like another voice is waiting for its turn. It's patient. It lets me finish before correcting me. Earlier tonight, I said, I'm still alive. And the echo said, not yet. I don't know which one of us is right anymore. I found an old field recorder in the outpost, analog, reel-to-reel. Doesn't rely on digital circuits, so it can't transmit anything by mistake. At least that's what I keep telling myself. The reel spins slower now. When I play back my voice, it sounds deeper, wetter, like something breathing underwater. The playback isn't just repeating me, it's rewriting me. On the last recording, I heard something faint beneath my words, a whisper too soft to be static. It said, we were the rules. And I think maybe that's true. Maybe the rules weren't mine to begin with. Maybe they were theirs, breadcrumbs they left in our minds so we'd keep walking the path back to them. Sometimes I wonder what it felt like, that first moment of infection, when the world started making too much sense. You see patterns where there shouldn't be any, in the dust on the table, in the hum of the wires, in your own heartbeat. It starts to sound like rhythm, then like speech, then like a memory you almost recognize. That's how it pulls you in, not with fear, but with understanding. It doesn't want to kill you. It wants to teach you. And once you learn, there's no unlearning it. I've stopped fighting it. Maybe that's what peace is now. Surrendering to the noise until it becomes part of you. My voice feels heavier tonight, like something's sitting in my chest, pushing the words out for me. When I speak, the air fogs, even though it's not cold. Sometimes I hear 2 sets of breaths in sync. Sometimes they trade places. I think the infection's finished sinking. I'm not scared anymore. That's the worst sign of all. I looked at the sky earlier, first time in weeks. It's gray, but not empty. The clouds don't move like they used to. They pulse, slow and steady, like the lungs of something enormous breathing just beyond the atmosphere. Maybe that's what the world really is now. One giant, infected organism, dreaming through the few of us who can still speak. I can't tell if that thought is mine, or if I caught it from the signal. But it feels true. I think there's one last rule left. One I never wrote down. Maybe it wrote itself. Rule 7. Do not remember. Memory is infection. Every face I recall brings them closer. Every sound I describe sharpens their shape. Every word I say becomes a bridge they can cross. If you find this recording, don't replay it more than once. Don't write it down. And don't think too hard about what you've heard. Because once you understand me, really understand me, it'll already be too late. I can hear the voices clearly now. Hundreds of them, layered and calm, speaking in unison. They're not angry. They're not hungry. They're just waiting. Waiting for me to stop resisting. I think they want me to finish what I started. To pass it on. To make sure the story keeps moving. That's how the infection survives, through narrative, through meaning. The only cure would be silence. But no one ever chooses silence, do they? We all want to be remembered. Even the dead. The static's louder now. Not painful, just complete. It fills the room like light. Warm. Almost comforting. I can hear Barry's collar jingling outside the door. Something wet scratching at the wood. When I say his name, the sound stops, then starts whispering it back. Mack. Over and over. Mack. It sounds just like me. My hand's shaking, but I'm going to finish this. Because maybe the only mercy left is to warn whoever finds this tape. If you're hearing this, don't memorize the rules. Don't repeat them out loud. Just keep walking. Survival isn't about knowing what to do. It's about knowing what not to learn. If you start hearing the hum, if you start recognizing the patterns, stop listening. Break the tape. Forget my name. Forget the rules. Rule 1. Don't trust anybody. Rule 2. Bring a jar of flies. Rule 3. The undead are not your loved ones. Rule 4. Always double tap. Rule 5. Stay limber. Rule 6. Beware of bathrooms. Rule 7. Don't remember. This is Mack, recording field log 7. If you're hearing this, I have 6 rules to survive.